Hello, I'm Larry,
I'm Nayani.
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Sergio.
and today we'll be talking about Maya Angelou. But to start with, we divided the project into different parts, and they include the biographical and historical part, followed by the poem, followed by the content analysis, and then the formal analysis of the poem, followed by imagery, and then the conclusion. And to start with,
I'm going to start with a little introduction of her. I will introduce Maya Angelou, which in fact her real and full name is Margaret Annie Johnson Angelou. And she was an African American woman, and she was born on 4th of April in 1928. She was born in St. Louis, in Missouri, in the southern part of America. And in fact, she is very well recognized because she's a polyphacetic woman, since she's an author, poet, actress, screenwriter, dance, and civil rights activist. In fact, she is very well known for this last fact, civil rights activist, and also because she was a real good poet and a writer, since she was very recognized for I Know What the Catchbird Sings, which she wrote this in 1969, and because of her this first novel, first among 8 novels that she did, and she gained a lot of prizes, like is the several, like one, she won 2 specific honors, including the National Association for the Advance of Colored People, which was one of the prime prizes that she won. And this prime was because his novel, of the one that I have mentioned, I Know Why the Catchbird Sings, a non-fiction novel, which in fact deals with her real life.
So Angelou had a very difficult childhood as since she was little, her parents divorced when she was at the age of 8. She moved with her mother in St. Louis, but then there was a time in her life in which she lived with her paternal grandmother. However, she had an extremely childhood because she got a trauma due to a problematic situation that happened in the family. She was molested and raped by her mother's boyfriend, whose name is Mr. Freeman. In that moment, she became silent for 5 years, and her uncle himself, he killed the rapist. After that, she got married when she was 16 years old. She moved on and she had a child back then, whose name is Guy, and he's now a famous poet. She studied art, music, drama in high school because she got a scholarship in California Labor School. And for the time we saw that she got several awards. She got 3 Grammy awards and 1 Tony Award for her novels and poems. And she also lived during the World War through the songs of the West Coast, where she became a better actress and she flourished as a famous celebrity in terms of literary.
Okay, the comment that we are going to comment is called Catchbird, which is an important part of her life, and in fact, well, as we mentioned before, is part of the title of her first novel. So she preferred to do a special poem of this, and the poem says, "A free bird lives on the back of the wind, and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays, and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The catchbird sings with a fearful thrill of things unknown, but long for still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the catchbird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a downright town, and names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. With wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful thrill, and things unknown but longed for still. And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
I'll be talking about the content analysis of the poem, and to start with, I'll be talking about the main theme of the poem, which is hope. The poem conveys a message of hope, which is that no matter what you're going through, no matter what's surrounding you, the struggles, you have to, keep your hope up and don't give up. And also, the poem is, in a way, used to symbolize the life of a human being because, for example, during the slavery in America, you have the difference between the slaves and the white supremacy. So the poem is in one way a symbol of this. It symbolizes the caged bird can be compared to the slaves, while the free bird, on the other hand, can be compared to the white supremacy. And moving on, also, the poem consists of different literary analyses, such as, for example, in line 27, we have our metaphor, which says, "But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams." And we all know that once a bird is caged, it's really impossible for it to stand on the grave of dreams. Also, a caged bird standing on the grave of dreams may also means that it's a way of being oppressed and not be able to move forward. Grave of dreams, which means that a grave of dead dreams. And followed by that, we have in line 10, alliteration of the S word, which is can seldom see through. And then we have personification in line 24 and line 28. Line 24 says, "Winds soft through the shining trees." Shining is something that pertains to human beings. So you don't expect a tree to sigh. Even though the wind is blowing. And in line 28, we have is shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. Shadow shouting. We all know that a shadow cannot shout. And moving from that, we have the paradox, which is the caged bird sings of freedom. A bird that is caged, that is oppressed, can't move forward, doesn't have any freedom, but yet is still singing of freedom. And this can be found in lines 21 and 22. And just like I said before, the poem in one way used to summarize the social situation going on in the United States back then between the white and the black slaves. So the black slaves can be considered as the bird that is caged and oppressed and can move forward or doesn't have any freedom. Everything he or she does comes from his or her master. And lastly, we can say that the poem is a positive poem, and it's a positive message which not only the readers can relate to, but my Angelou herself can relate to it, because after all she's been through and after all what happened to her, she still kept her hope, and I believe that's what got her where she is today.
Okay, so related with the formal analysis, we've got 6 stanzas of different length. There's no defined rhyme scheme within 3 verbs, but we've got some exceptions. So we've got masculine rhymes in stanzas 2, 3, 4, and 5. So for example, in the second stanza we've got cage and rage, and in the third stanza we've got thrill, steal, and heal. Also, the poem in terms of meter, it's mostly composed of projected tetrameter. And in terms of rhyme, in the stanzas 4 and 5, we've got a slowdown in the rhyme, so lines are much bigger in those stanzas, and the purpose of this is to draw more attention to what's happening in the stanzas, to make the reader focalize the events that are being produced there. And also the third and the sixth stanza are equal, so the author is repeating both stanzas. Also, we got a simple vocabulary, it's normal vocabulary day, things that you say every day. And also we got alternation between the ideas of the cage and the free bird, as Larry said, either with the black and the white and the condition in two styles.
Well, I think that the imagery in the poem is very important to analyze because she decided to approach to a visual imagery. There are many sentences that we can find in the poem that approach to the vision, to the sight, and I think this is very important to her because she's trying somehow to describe herself as a bird who is in a cage, and this may represent how she was imprisoned by all of her traumas in the past. As she was raped, she was dealing with some prejudices because she was black when she was living in Arkansas. All these conflictive moments in her life made her to write these idyllic images on this poem, and I think that what she's trying to do is to make us see this difference between being imprisoned in a cage because of all her traumas and being free, finally flying like a bird.
Exactly. This is the importance of the bird that she introduces it in the title of the poem, even in the title of her main novel. And the importance of this bird is the freedom that she wants to portray to the readers, and the opposite feeling that she would like to feel once she was suffering all these damages in her life. So the most optimistic image of her life is portrayed in the title, although it is also portrayed the image of the cage, as she said, to have a contrary view in the same sentence, to have a paradox in the same title. So it is important to be account of that.
And before the conclusion, if you don't mind, I would like to go through the poem again. And it says, a free bird lives on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips its wings in the orange sunrise and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom through his bars of rage. His wings are clapped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful thrill of things unknown, but longed for still, and his tone is heard. On the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds surf through the shining trees, and the fat worms waiting on a down bright lawn. But he names the sky his home. But the caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful thrill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard. On a distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. In conclusion, cage stands for oppression, and like I said before, once you are oppressed either by the society or by the situation you go through yourself. For example, we can consider the moment when she was raped as a moment of being caged and being oppressed. And once you are caged, then that means that you have no freedom. You are like restricted from everything. So instead of cage bird, she would have used free bird as the title of the novel. But since she's trying to convey a message that everybody can relate to, and since one moment or other in our life we've all been caged or depressed. And also, like I said before, the message as a whole is like to motivate others and tell them, to carry on no matter what the situation is, no matter what they're going through, that if she could overcome all her problems, then probably the readers also would. And lastly, just like Nico said before, she herself symbolizes the caged bird. This can be seen during the moment she was raped and she was like silent for 5 years and unable to say anything. So, despite
Yeah, so despite its imprisonment, the cage bear is able to keep fighting to surpass these difficulties and go further to improve his life, to survive. So it's an allusion to freedom. It's freedom for the black people.
Yeah, so that's the main topic of this poem. So here now there are the references. I hope you like it. We hope you like it, sorry.
and thank you for your time.
Thanks for watching.